Welcome to Section 3 of the tutorial for creating an interactive Excel dashboard. In this section, we will be creating the calculation product worksheet. Open the Excel file that you saved at the end of Section 2. Remember that these 6 sections need to be completed in order. This section has 4 steps. We will be working on the calculation worksheet for the products. We will be copying a few pivot tables and we'll be using conditional formatting in one of those pivot tables. Finally, we will be creating dynamic text strings. In the calculation distribution channel worksheet, click in cell B5 of the pivot table. Next, on the Pivot Table Analyze tab, click on Select. In the drop-down box, click Entire Pivot Table. Then hit Ctrl-C. Navigate to the Calculation Product worksheet and click in cell B4. Then hit Ctrl+B to paste that copy of the pivot table into this worksheet. We are copying the pivot table because creating new pivot tables takes more Excel resources than simply copying the pivot table and modifying it each time you need a pivot table of the same data table. On the Pivot Table Analyze tab, click on Filter Connections. In the dialog box, uncheck Distribution Center. Click OK. In the Pivot Table Fields box, drag Distribution Center out of the Rows box and drag Product into the Rows box. On the Pivot Table Analyze tab, click on Insert Slicer. In the drop-down box, check Product. Click OK. Copy the pivot table from cell B4 to cell B21 using the directions in the previous step. Those directions were Pivot Table Analyze tab, Select Entire Table, Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V. Drag Product out of the Rows box and drag Distribution Channel into the Rows box. Drag Year into the Columns box and drag Contribution Margin into the Values box twice. Right-click on cell D24. In the drop-down box, click on Show Values As, then Percentage Difference From, then make Base Field Year and Base Item next. Click OK. Change the header for the second column by clicking in cell C23 and then typing a space and then contribution margin in the formula box. You'll get an error message if you don't type a space before contribution margin because Excel already has the field name of contribution margin elsewhere. By adding a space into the field, it makes it a different field name. Change the header for the third column by clicking in cell D23 and then typing percentage change prior year. To create the change symbol, click on Symbol in the Insert tab and select the correct symbol. If the change symbol or delta symbol does not appear in the recently used symbols section, we will show what to do next. If the change symbol or delta symbol does not appear in the recently used symbols section, you can use the code associated with the character. Select Unicode hex in the From Down box, drop down, and then type 0394 into the character code box. Click the filter icon next to Distribution Channel. In the dialog box, check all 3 distribution channels. Be sure not to check the division with the error Web Site. You may have different errors in your dataset. On the Design tab, click on Grand Totals. In the drop-down box, click on for columns only. Select cells C24 to C26 and right-click. In the drop-down box, click on Format Cells. In the dialog box, click on Accounting and 0 decimal places. Repeat for cells E24 to E26. Drag Contribution Margin to the Values box again. Right-click in cell E24 and then click on Show Values As, then Percentage Difference From, then make Base Field Year and Base Item Prior. Click OK. Click in cell E24. On the Home tab, click on Conditional Formatting. In the drop-down box, click on New Rule. In the dialog box that appears, click all cells showing sum of contribution margin values. Then choose Icon Sets Format Style and choose the 3 triangle style. Don't hit OK yet. Next, click on Show Icon Only, then change the type to number and no cell icon for less than 0 and greater than 0. Click on the heading, cell E24, and in the formula box, type a blank space so there is no heading for the column. You cannot have blank headings in Excel, so inserting a space is a way to create a heading that looks blank. Adjust all the columns so that they are just wide enough to show the column headings. Click in the Pivot Table. On the Pivot Table Analyze tab, click on Options. Then click on Options again in the drop-down box. In the dialog box, uncheck Auto-Fit Column Widths on Update. Click OK. Now we are going to create a current year contribution margin by distribution channel pivot table and chart. Start by copying the pivot table from cell B4 to cell B31. Drag product out of the rows box. Drag distribution channel into the rows box. Drag year to the filters box. Drag contribution margin to the values box. Use the filters to show all 3 distribution channels in the current year. Format as accounting with 0 decimals. Select and right-click Format Cells Accounting. Select cells B31 to C34 and on the Insert tab, click on Column Charts. Choose the first column chart. Click on the unwanted elements of the chart and hit the Delete key on your keyboard to make them disappear. Remove the title, grid lines, series, and legend. Right-click on one of the field buttons on the chart. In the drop-down box, click on Hide All Field Buttons on Chart. Right-click on one of the columns in the chart. In the drop-down menu, click on Add Data Labels. We are going to make the data bars closer together to improve the look of the chart. First, right-click on one of the columns in the chart, and in the drop-down menu, click on Format Data Series. Next, increase gap width to 100%. Now we are going to create dynamic text strings for the headings in our dashboard. The heading wording will change depending on which slicer button is clicked. In cell F8, type the formula as shown on the screen. Note that the spaces in the formula are important, so be sure to include them as illustrated. In cell F9, type the formula as shown on the screen. Remember that these formulas are given in the PDF notes of these slides, where you can copy and paste from there. In cell F10, type the formula as shown on the screen. And again, you can see the PDF of the notes for these steps, and you can copy them. The final step is to type contribution margin by product in cell A1. The calculation product worksheet is complete. Click the different products on the slicer buttons to see how the data changes. We are now done with section 3 of this project. Please save your Excel file. You will be using the file for the next section of this project. This video was created by Dr. Wendy Tietz. Have a great day.